This is CBN NewsWatch.
And thanks for joining us for CBN NewsWatch. I'm Heather Sells. In Iowa today, caucus chaos. Last night, Democratic Party leaders blamed technology for problems with counting that delayed the results of the Democratic caucus. On the Republican side, the president easily won the GOP caucus with no glitches. Democrats now say they will release some of the results tonight, but still up in the air which Democratic candidate actually won. Caitlin Burke has the story.
As the count went deeper into the night with no results, the campaigns began to pack it up and move on.
So listen, it is too close to call, so I'm just going to tell you what I do know. You won!
Iowa's Democratic Party leaders say it wasn't a hack or an intrusion, but they're concerned about quality checks and inconsistencies. Some blaming a new app designed to help the reporting.
I want to make sure they're very careful in their deliberations. And indications are, from our indications, it's going to be close.
Of course I'm concerned.
Officials are now hand counting the results. The disaster further muddying up a hotly contested primary season. Joe Biden, Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, and Pete Buttigieg had all been hoping to break out of the pack with a win in the Hawkeye state. CBN correspondent Abigail Robertson is in Iowa with more on the candidates and their future.
With uncertainty in the air as candidates address their supporters Monday night. Each took advantage of the situation to celebrate like they were the winner.
By all indications, we are going on to New Hampshire victorious.
Sanders supporters are hopeful this is finally his year.
I feel like Bernie is really going to be that answer that we need. I think he's the only one viable that can go against Trump right now.
While Warren caucus goers also had some pep in their step.
I'm so excited. I'm so thrilled.
Biden didn't quite make it as a viable candidate at every precinct.
I think that overall Biden does have the support we need. A lot of candidates just have confidence that he's still going to do well, and so some Iowans aren't showing up for him, but I think ultimately he will do well.
But his supporters tried their best to secure more votes.
I'm getting text messages to come over to Bernie as we speak.
While many Democrat voters tell CBN News it's time for some new leaders.
I feel that it's time for maybe getting some younger people with some different ideas.
The majority stands ready to support whoever wins the nomination.
I will be behind whoever the candidate will be.
But no matter whom that is, Donald Trump Jr. tells CBN News none of the candidates are a match for his dad.
The reality, if I look at what I believe to be the two front runners right now, whether it's Joe Biden or Bernie Sanders, I'm like, well, one's a communist, that's great, I can work with that. The other, honestly, can't remember what state he's in 50% of the time.
Since 2000, each Democratic candidate who's won the Iowa caucus has gone on to win the party's nomination. Given the unusually crowded primary field, many campaigns are hopeful that 2020 marks an end of that streak. Reporting from Iowa, Abigail Robertson, CBN News.
Now by Bob Vander Plaats. He's the president of the Family Leader in Iowa and has been actively involved in Iowa politics for years. Bob, thanks so much for joining us.
Good to be with you.
I want to ask you, for Democrats, this has to be an incredible disappointment. No clear winner today, no momentum for that winner, and months of work seemingly down the drain. What is your take on this and what it means for the 2020 race?
Well, I think, first of all, it's an epic fail by the Iowa Democrat Party. The caucuses are a great process. Anybody that goes through it says, it's a process that potential presidential candidates and presidents should go through. You saw Donald Trump tweet his support for the Iowa caucuses today. But the Iowa Democrat Party, quite frankly, this should have been beta tested several times to make sure that they're ready for this. And I just really feel bad for the candidates, for the volunteers, for the campaign staff, and all the people who put so much energy into this. To have it drag out like this. This, quite frankly, doesn't represent Iowa very well, and Iowa's a heck of a lot better than what was shown by the Iowa Democrat Party.
What are you hearing from Iowans on the ground? How frustrated are they that they went to the caucus and the results didn't go through?
Well, I think overall, Iowans are feeling a collective sense of disappointment, regardless of party. This is when your state is on not only a national stage, but a world stage. And to see the results not come in the way the results should have came in, But again, I take a look at the candidates and the campaigns because Iowa's has been proven to be a state that will give a lot of momentum to a candidate that does well or beats expectations in Iowa. And right now, people don't know the candidates and campaigns have moved on to New Hampshire as they should. But now we're hopefully later this afternoon going to find out some results.
Any insights on why we had this problem? They're saying it's not a hack or an intrusion.
You know, I really don't know. I'm not very close to the Democrat Party in the state of Iowa. I'm very close to Iowa, but not to the Democrat Party in the state of Iowa. I just think it's just another blunder. I mean, the Des Moines Register polled their poll, which should have been out on Sunday, citing some irregularities. And then you get to the Iowa caucus night on Monday night, and then they can't come up with the results because, they're not sure. I'd really encourage them to get their act together because a lot of campaigns and candidates are dependent on it. And I think you mentioned in your early introduction is Donald Trump and the Republican Party. That whole thing went flawlessly. And,
right. It's confusing to understand. I want to ask you, because we're almost out of time, what about Iowa's first in the nation status? Is that more on the line with this? I know there's ongoing questions about that over the years.
Well, everybody's always going to challenge the status of Iowa going first. I think Iowa going first is a really good idea. We just need to make sure that we run it right, because if you don't have a state like Iowa go first, you're going to leave it up to, say, the Michael Bloombergs of the world and others, say, try to buy the candidacy. Anybody, including Donald Trump, who went through the Iowa caucuses, says the caucuses is a great system to kick off the presidential race in America.
All right. Well, I know we are all anxiously awaiting the results. Bob Vander Plaats, thanks so much for your time today.
Thank you. Me too.
One of the president's most prominent faith advisors is Pastor Robert Jeffress. He's on the 700 Club today talking about his new book, Courageous. But here in the newsroom, we wanted to talk with him about the news of the day. And Pastor Jeffress, you came on an incredible news day.
That's right.
Right. Well, talk first about Iowa. I know you were there last week.
Yes.
And what is your take on what has happened or what didn't happen last night?
It's so interesting. 4 years ago, I was there traveling with candidate Donald Trump before any votes had been cast, and people were curious about him. There was some excitement, but there were a lot of questions from evangelicals. When I compared that to this time around, evangelicals are so excited about this president because he's running on a record of accomplishments, not just promises. So I think there's going to be a huge turnout. I've told the president often lately, I believe he is going to exceed the historic margin from 2016 that he won the evangelical vote by. And when you combine that with the chaos on the left that we've even seen last night and today in the Iowa caucus, I think things are being set up for a landslide victory for Donald Trump.
He's got his State of the Union speech tonight. What are you hoping to hear him say, or have you given him some tips?
I don't give tips to the president unless he asks for tips. He has plenty to talk about. But I think it's going to be a positive speech. I think he's going to be concentrating on the great accomplishments regarding the economy, unemployment, the stock market, plus the things that he's done to promote values that are important to those of us who are Christians. Without doubt, this president has been the most pro-life, pro-Israel, pro-religious liberty president in our nation's history, and that's a great record to stand on.
I want to ask you just a little more about your role as faith advisor with him. You have been with him, as you were saying, since he was on the campaign trail originally for the White House.
Yes.
What does your role look like today? How often are you in touch with him?
There's no official role at all. I count myself a friend. He considers me a friend. I consider him a friend. It's interesting. He first got to know me 5 years ago when he saw me on TV, and he said, you know what, I need to get to know that guy. And he reached out to me. We've been great friends. I have tremendous confidence in him. And I'll tell your audience this, I've been with him in some very pressure-filled moments. I've never seen anybody as cool, calm, and collected under fire as this president is. Every time I leave the Oval Office, I think to myself, this is the kind of person you want leading your country.
Why do you think he has the reputation, then, for being more of a shoot-off-the-hip type of president?
I think sometimes that's a cultivated image. You know, people want to lambaste the president, question this or that about him, and I always tell people, look, you don't become a billionaire and the President of the United States by being a moron. He's one of the smartest individuals I've ever been around.
I want to ask you about your critics, because of course you have them like the president does. They say that you as a pastor should not be defending someone who they say is immoral. How do you respond to your critics?
Well, look, the fact is the gospel says all of us are sinners. We've all fallen short of God's glory. We're all sinners in need of a Savior. The president never pretends to be perfect, and I don't either, but I think people understand that I'm supporting his policies. You know, one of the first votes I ever cast for president was voting for Ronald Reagan in 1980. He was the first divorced president in history. When I voted for Ronald Reagan, I wasn't voting to endorse divorce. I was voting to endorse his policies, and it's the same with this president.
Your book is Courageous 10 Strategies for Thriving in a Hostile World.
Yes.
What prompted you to write this?
I think it's increasingly difficult for Christians in this culture to live out their faith, not only because of a culture that's at odds with God, but also just the problems we face every day. And so I took in this book 10 survival tips that survivalists use in a plane crash or an avalanche. Don't panic, gain situational awareness, trust your training, and apply that biblically so that Christians can not just survive, but they can thrive in this culture.
Pastor Jeffress, thanks for your time.
Thank you for having me.
And as we mentioned, the president will give his State of the Union address tonight. We will have full coverage of the speech right here on the CBN News Channel beginning at 8:30 p.m. Be sure to tune in for expert analysis and the president's address. Well, when it comes to abortion, a prominent pro-life leader says everyday people have the power to end it. Sean Carney is the president of 40 Days for Life, and he told CBN's The Prayer Link that promoting a culture of life can make a difference in the battle to protect unborn children.
Last year, the Washington Post reported that dating was down 57%. And I thought that's not a culture of life. That's the destruction of real, authentic human relationships, that we're not even dating anymore. And so I use these examples to show how, whether you're taking care of your elderly parents or you're getting kids in the car every single morning. I have 8 children, and I know what a project that is. Those things are living a culture of life, and they're serving as an example to the gospel of life.
You can watch Prayer Link tonight at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time, only on the CBN News Channel. Well, China is using any and all measures that it can to fight the fast-spreading coronavirus. That includes drones. Footage from one province in southern China shows a drone being used to spray disinfectant in public areas. Local police are even flying drones equipped with speakers along streets and in residential compounds to explain prevention and control policies for the epidemic. The drones are also being used to speak with residents as officials have urged people to stay at home. The virus has killed more than 400 people in the country and infected over 20,000 worldwide. In Japan, more than 2,500 people are stuck on a cruise ship in quarantine, and that follows reports of several illnesses and one positive coronavirus result. Well, coming up, an early spring has already been predicted, but some parts of the U.S. are currently buried in snow. What to expect as we start saying goodbye to winter. And also, before we go to break, here is a look at what is trending on CBNNews.com.
Hey, if you're tired and exhausted all day, you can't think clearly, and you really just need a cup or even a pot of coffee to get through your day, then join me, Dr. Josh Axe, for this new series where I'm going to teach you how to transform your diet and use essential oils and supplements to get a better night's sleep.
Wake up to your best life. Call 1-800-700-7000 to get your free DVD or booklet of Protect Your Sleep today.
It's about the competition.
I kind of put that pressure on myself, and I think people had expectations.
It's about overcoming.
We use this phrase all the time, keep chopping, keep practicing hard.
It's about going the distance.
You know, I think as a father, it's my job, to lead. Just be the best husband and father I can be.
Watch Going the Distance with Sean Brown Saturday night at 7:30. on the CBN News Channel.
Orphans Promise is committed to loving and serving at-risk children, to helping keep families together, and to creating opportunities for strong and sustainable communities around the world. We're working in over 60 countries around the world, and with your help, we can do even more. There's an old African proverb I love that says, if you want to run fast, run alone. But if you want to run far, run together. At Orphans Promise, we want to run far so we can touch the lives of as many orphaned and vulnerable children as possible. But we don't want to go alone. We're out to change the world, one child, one family, one community at a time. Will you join us?
In the West today, people are shoveling their way out of their homes after a big snowstorm overnight. The winter storm dumped 18 inches in Salt Lake City, Utah. That prompted school closures, flight delays, and shutting down sections of highway in Utah and Wyoming. Utah officials say they responded to over 250 accidents throughout the state in the last 24 hours. The National Weather Service said the storm is expected to move into the south central U.S. and the eastern part of the country later this week. And joining us now is Weather Bell's chief meteorologist, Joe Bastardi. Joe, thanks for joining us. What states are going to really see the impact from this storm system going forward?
Well, from west and central Texas, northeastward up into the lower Great Lakes, and then eastward to interior southern New England, which includes much of New York State. This is going to be an ugly storm. We're expecting freezing rain and sleet, for instance, in the lower Great Lakes and into Pennsylvania and interior southern New England. Snow further north. It's going to snow deep into the heart of Texas. I don't quite think it gets to Dallas-Fort Worth. Interestingly enough, some of the models are putting a second band of snow late tomorrow night, Thursday morning, in where I grew up, down in Aggie land. Texas A&M, a half-inch of snow over there, which is a rare event all the way down there in the deep south. And this is part of a war in the weather that is going to be occurring, I think, through March. From Texas to New England is a battleground. There's going to be one storm after another coming out, all sorts of Arctic air available. The southeastern ridge, and we saw this happen last February into March, will hold its ground with a lot of warm air in the southeast, a lot of very cold air in the plains, Great Lakes over to New England, and a huge fight in between. So, you know, I know the groundhog said spring is right around the corner. Looks like a long haul to the end of the block, though.
All right, so it sounds like we all need to gear up, and I know that could potentially affect the New Hampshire primary as well. Looking even further ahead, what are your predictions for this summer? How could this weather now and what we're seeing with the way winter and spring are working out affect things this summer?
Well, it seems that what's been going on is late winter, and winter starts later than normal. February, March, April, for instance, last year, especially February and March, were the worst part of the winter. But that doesn't stop things from reversing as far as temperatures go. I think we're in for another very wet spring from Texas all the way into the Ohio Valley and Michigan and on eastward. I was up in Michigan talking to a lot of farmers last week, and they just did not like the message I was giving, but that's what it looks like to me. More wet weather, maybe late in planting in some places. I don't want to discourage anybody. But then once we break away out of that, we get into May, June, and July, I think what you're going to see is most of the country warmer than normal. And the reason it's warmer than normal is not so much daytime highs, but nighttime lows will be up because the Gulf is warm, the Atlantic's warm, there's a lot of moisture in the ground. That keeps the dew point higher and stops the temperature from falling somewhat. So we're predicting a warm summer. We do think it will dry out mid and late summer. But I'll tell you what, it looks like there's a lot of wet weather coming over the next couple of months before that.
All right, good to be prepared for. Joe Bastardi with Weather Bell. Thanks for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Still ahead, how President Trump's Middle East peace plan will make an impact in the Holy Land.
Daddy?
Yeah, buddy?
How many nickels are in a dollar?
There are 20 nickels in a dollar.
How do birds fly? Does milk really make my bones stronger?
Yeah.
Daddy, when we die, will we go to heaven?
Do you have the answer to life's biggest question? Call the 700 Club. We'll help you find answers to the important questions life brings your way.
Watch breaking news, in-depth exclusive stories and programs from health to entertainment you won't find anywhere else. The CBN News Channel, a perspective you can trust. Enjoy credible news reporting from around the world. Discover inspiring programs and stories of hope, all in one place from a Christian perspective. The CBN News Channel, a perspective you can trust. To watch the CBN News Channel, download the app or visit cbnnewschannel.com.
Hello, I'm Dr. David Perlmutter, board-certified neurologist and #1 New York Times best-selling author. Wouldn't it be great to boost your energy, eliminate brain fog, and even reverse brain disease? Well, you can, and I'm going to show you how, along with some of the world's most well-respected brain experts in this DVD, Protect Your Brain.
Get Protect Your Brain, a free DVD only from the Christian Broadcasting Network, featuring experts on the cutting edge of neuroscience and brain health.
No matter how many times you've failed in the past, you really can do this.
In Protect Your Brain, you'll discover simple strategies to keep your brain young and healthy. Improve your memory. Discover the gut-brain connection. In Protect Your Brain, get your free copy at cbn.com or call 1-800-700-7000.
If you want to improve the quality of your life, get the DVD Protect Your Brain and get it today.
Get the top political news and analysis from Washington on Faith Nation, tonight at 6 Eastern, only on the CBN News Channel.
Welcome back. Jerusalem has always been the most contentious issue in Israeli-Palestinian negotiations, and it's no different now with President Trump's Middle East peace plan, his deal of the century. CBN Middle East correspondent Julie Stahl brings us that story.
Abbas rejected Jerusalem as the undivided capital of Israel.
Not have it recorded in my history and the history of the country that I sold Jerusalem.
U.S. Ambassador to Israel David Friedman explained the Jerusalem part of the deal.
Jerusalem is an undivided city within a security barrier, and under the Trump plan, that undivided city within the security barrier will be 100% under Israeli sovereignty, with the Temple Mount retaining the status quo.
The Temple Mount is under Israeli security control and Jordanian religious authority.
Beyond the security barrier, you still have municipal Jerusalem. And in that area, there is territory earmarked for a Palestinian capital.
Abu Dis is part of that area, but Abu Dis Mayor Ahmad Abu Hilal told CBN News that's a non-starter.
We refuse that thing. For me, I'm as the mayor of Abu Dis, I refuse to be the capital of Palestine. I'm a part of Jerusalem.
In 1996, the Palestinian Authority broke ground to build a parliament building in Abu Dis. It was going to be their Jerusalem seat of government, but the building was never completed.
They built the parliament because use Abu Dis as the part of Jerusalem. They have no walls here. Now they put in the walls.
Israel built the security barrier in Jerusalem more than 15 years ago at the height of the Second Palestinian Intifada to prevent terrorists from entering the city. From a rooftop in Abu Dis overlooking the security barrier and Jerusalem beyond, it's easy to see how the two sides were once one.
We used to work here, we go into Jerusalem. Before the wall, every night we'd be in Jerusalem watching the cinema.
This is El Azariah, a mostly Muslim town under the Palestinian Authority, just over a mile from Jerusalem. It's also known as Bethany in the Bible, the place where Jesus raised Lazarus from the dead. Al Azariah Mayor Issam Faroun said the Trump plan misses the point about Jerusalem.
The importance of this area, Azariah, Abu Dis, and other villages here, have its importance because we are surrounding Jerusalem. Without our Jerusalem, we are nothing here.
I'm telling you, I hope so. The peace is coming back. That's what we need. Everybody needs the peace. The peace is good for everybody.
But with the Palestinian rejection of the plan, it's not likely a peace deal will be signed anytime soon. Julie Stahl, CBN News, Abu Dis and Al Azariya.
And don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after the break.
I am Region's first ROTC graduate student.
Meet the pastors who are preaching the gospel in a fresh, fearless way. I'm Roberto Torres-Cedillo. Join me each week for Next Gen Voices. And watch God transform a generation.
How'd you like to get a redo on your health, on your body, on your arteries, so you could have the energy you had 20 years ago? The great news is you can. I'm Dr. Mike Roizen, chair of the Wellness Institute at the Cleveland Clinic. I've written 4 New York Times bestsellers. But even better than having to read all that, you can listen to this DVD and watch it. Protect your heart? Yes, you can. Here's how.
Go to CBN.com or call 1-800-700-7000 for your free copy of Protect Your Heart. Let the medical experts show you their new discoveries on how to avoid heart disease and even reverse it. Easy steps to uncover the hidden dangers in your medicine cabinet, reduce stress, and get a complete do-over for your health. Call 1-800-700-7000. That's 1-800-700-7000. Or go to CBN.com to claim your free copy of Protect Your Heart.
Young people, millennials, are flocking to church.
It's not an exaggeration to say that we love to meet them and that we love to know their stories.
People across the globe are uniting in the fight against cancer today. The Union for International Cancer Control is remembering World Cancer Day. This year, it continues its 3-year campaign called I Am and I Will. The UICC says its initiative aims to not only raise awareness about cancer, but press governments and individuals to take action against the disease. You can visit worldcancerday.org to find out more. And here at CBN, we encourage you to take a moment to pray for those who are battling cancer. Well, that is it for this edition of CBN News Watch. Remember that you can find out more of our news programs on the CBN News Channel anytime or online with cbnnews.com. Also, please do tell us what you think about the stories that you've seen by emailing newswatch@cbn.com or just talk to us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We hope that you will join us next time. Have a great day.